Hello, I'm Pagan Federation Community Support Officer Dan Coultas, and I am here with this year's Community Award winner, Debbie Gregory. Hello, Debbie.
Hi.
So first of all, a huge congratulations on winning the PF Community Award from me and the whole PF committee.
Thank you.
No worries. I'm going to start off this interview by reading a little citation which combines the highlights of the various nominations that you received from the public. I know this will embarrass you greatly and you'll probably turn red, but yeah, here we go. So Debbie has given her all to the pagan community. She transformed the way the PF supports and interacts with the community through the CSTs, that's the community support team. Debbie works tirelessly to promote the downfall of bigotry from all angles, even when at times it has caused her misery. She's continued to serve the pagan community by doing the right thing. She's an indispensable member of the team at Pagan Aid, without whom the charity would not have been anywhere near as successful as it has been in recent years. Debbie is part of the Which Path Forward team, the founder of Pagans Care UK, as well as being the chair of the Open University's Interfaith Club. She's actively involved in the Defence Pagan Network and has recently set up a group for pagan military families. Debbie is also an author and has recently released the first in a series of children's books. She does all this and more while studying for a degree in psychology and raising 3 children. In a year when we've had a record number of public nominations for the PF Community Award, many of whom would have been worthy winners, Debbie stood out for her tireless dedication to the community and tenacity in the face of adversity. Her selflessness has been further demonstrated in the fact that she asked that rather than a physical award being presented to her, she would like the money that would have been spent on it to be donated to Pagan Aid. So lots and lots there, Debbie. I'm sure there are other things that could have been mentioned as well. So my first question to you is, what drives you to do as much as you do?
I mean, it's a few things really. Firstly, it's a bit self-serving. I started off in the very newly formed disabilities team, for whom I was their deputy under Anna Lawson when it was created. And really it was about the fact that I'd been pagan at the time for about 15 years and none of the events that I'd ever been to were accessible enough for my needs. So creating a space where that could be discussed, where the needs of those with additional considerations, whether that's because they were disabled, carers, neurodivergent, or whatever, it was important to me because I knew that if I was feeling that way, that I couldn't possibly be alone. And the thought that other people were feeling as lonely and as isolated as I was really kind of heartbreaking. So I figured I am a loud mouth. I can get people to pay attention. So why not put that to some good use? And also I come from a farming and a mining family who instilled into me from a very early age that service to one's community is everything. It's a spiritual act, it's a moral act, it's a personally courageous act to give yourself so selflessly, and it feels wrong to not do it. I feel like I'm not being myself when I'm not serving others, which I suppose is probably something that a therapist would be quite interested in, but I feel the need to serve. And when I stopped doing the work that I was doing for the military and veteran community, because I became so ill, I re-immersed myself in my spiritual community and got restless focusing on myself, so started focusing on everybody else instead, and it kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah. So you have previously held many different roles in the Pagan Federation. You're not a PF officer anymore, but many of the projects that the PF are working on at the moment were ones that you either started or were very much involved with yourself. Is it nice to see these things come into fruition now?
It is. I mean, when I first started in the Pagan Federation, it wasn't the same structure that it is now. And it was very much being led by people who knew what needed to be done and were getting frustrated by things not moving as quickly as they could and efficiently as they could. And they were working really, really hard to make that a thing. And their hard work paid off. There is now a committee and a council in place that has some of the really innovative and trustworthy and amazing people that it's always had and has had for years, along with some new people that are being they're making big strides. Your new president, Sarah, is amazing, and all of these things that are happening. And to feel like I had a part in that is, I mean, it's difficult to let it go because I'm one of those people that struggles to not see things through to the end on my own. But knowing that I could step back for my own health and leave it in the hands of people like you and Sarah and Rich and Keith, and Emma and Chris and all these other people, knowing that they were there so that I could step back was really liberating, because I'd never worked with a team before that I felt safe doing that with. The knowledge that I could just sit back, take care of myself, not be judged for it, and not leave more work in my wake. I mean, there is more work because there's all the projects that I started, but it's work that was going to be done anyway. I just gave it a bit of a leg up. Sarah and you would have done it without me, but I got the balls in motion so that you didn't have to do that. And knowing that I've eased a bit of work for other people eases my conscience now that I'm sitting back and doing a lot less, and focusing on university and my kids and my own health and all of that. So I'm looking forward to the 50th anniversary stuff, seeing how the plan that I made has been changed to an online one to accommodate the pandemic. I'm enjoying hearing from people the little bits and pieces that the community support team are doing. When people I get messages constantly from people saying, I've noticed this and this. I'm like, yes, that's Dan's work and his team's work, and that's all going really well. And it's like I've got spies coming and twittering to me what you're doing, except none of it's bad stuff. It's all of this amazing stuff's happening. I sort of sit back and go, ha ha ha, yes. So maybe there's a little bit of gloating. Just a little bit of gloating, that I managed to find people whose shoulders were strong enough to carry that, because it's a difficult thing running all that. I'm in awe of Sarah. I don't know how she does it. You, with all the stuff that you do, completely in awe. It broke me after 6 years of it. I need a rest. So I'm happy for the rest.
Yeah. Obviously, you say that you're taking a rest, but as we've seen, plenty of things that you are actually still doing. So going to move on a bit now to the Open University. How have you found leading the interfaith group there as a pagan, and has there been any sort of challenges that have come up?
I mean, the biggest challenge hasn't been anything to do with my faith and everything to do with apathy. It's difficult to get people motivated when you can't meet physically. Most people who study with the Open University are doing so as full-time parents. People are working at the same time as raising a family, going to university. So adding this extra thing on top is quite difficult for them. So it's slow going, but just the fact of, like Mike Steigel, ex-PF president, always says to me, it's keeping the conversation going. So even though we haven't really done much, just having this space that people can come to that is fully inclusive for all faiths is really important. There's been no pushback whatsoever, because I'm pagan. I've had offers from Christians, Muslims, Jews, all sorts of people from all different faiths offering different types of support. It's going to be interesting to watch it evolve when I start getting ready to hand it over, because to run an OU club you have to be a student, and I'm hoping to not be a student forever, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes after I'm done with it, because at the moment I'm just sort of keeping it on tick over until someone with a bit more energy than me can come along and do something. But our biggest concern has been supporting those who feel invalidated in their study choice because of their faith beliefs. And believe it or not, it's actually been Christians that have suffered the brunt of that. This idea that if you have a belief in Christ or God, that you can't possibly believe in science. I mean, we have had a lot of pagans who come to us because, again, it's mostly a science issue, that if you believe in the sciences, if you're studying the sciences, that you must, you know, believe in magic, and all this kind of thing. So I mean, one thing that I'm a big advocate of is magic and science are the same thing. So empowering people to think in that way has been really has been really good. And I think the Christians that I supported have been very much empowered by this idea of, if there is a God, if their beliefs are the one true belief, if that's what they want to believe, then, you know, he must be one hell of a physicist and one hell of a biologist and all these kind of things. So it's about sort of empowering people in their, not in their choice of faith, but in their choice of study. So it's a little bit of a different angle to what I was used to with the PF. So it's been interesting.
Yeah. So several of your nominations have mentioned your work with Pagan Aid. So the next question is, why is that something that you do, and what can people do if they want to support the charity?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I was excited about Pagan Aid for a number of reasons. The first was that in terms of the world stage, we don't really have the kind of presence that other faith groups have in terms of structure. For many, many reasons that any pagan will fully understand, we don't have that structure. We don't have I mean, the Pagan Federation does a great amount of work in supporting on a legislative level, on a community support level. But one thing that we really do struggle with is showing what pagans do aside from their faith. What, you know, we're just normal members of the community. So there are things that we're passionate about. There are causes that we want to get involved with. And Pagan Aid very much stands up for that, because of the fact that it's all about fighting poverty through green initiative. So showing that kind of, yes, we're pagan, but this is something that affects everybody, not just pagans, and it sort of puts it on the same level as things like Christian Aid, and shows that, yeah, okay, we may wear goofy outfits sometimes and run around fires and sing with flowers in our hair and whatnot. However, there is a more serious side to us. We are passionate about climate change, we're passionate about poverty, and we're passionate about professional initiatives that can drive change in both those areas. So I was really excited about getting involved with that, even in a small way. And also it's interesting to see, I mean, some of the people that have been involved in Pagan Aid over the years have been some real movers and shakers in the pagan community. So to sit back and watch them work in such a laid back setting, because Pagan Aid is a very laid back, slow moving kind of organization. So to be able to sit back and watch everybody do their work was a very, it was educating. I was extremely, I've learned a lot. I'm still learning a lot from Pagan Aid. So it's a good experience. And I would urge anybody who wants to get involved in any kind of community initiative, if the Pagan Federation is not for you, because that is it's a very specific skill set and personality set as well. In the Pagan Federation, Pagan Aid is much more laid back. Everything is about what's best for the environment, what's best to fight poverty, and there's much smaller stuff that needs doing. So it's not as much of a time commitment. So I would definitely urge people to get involved there. Email, would they email me or you?
Either is fine.
Message the Pagan Aid page, let us know what it is you want to do, and then I'll tell you who you can email. But yeah, get involved. There's also other organizations. There's Pagan Aid, there's Pagan Federation, the Druid Network. If you look on the Pagan Heathen Symposium website, there's a whole list of organizations there that are doing great things in the community. So there's always somewhere that you can get involved, large or small. And if you want to know more and you're not sure what you want to do, one of the things that I'm very good at, ask the Pagan Federation Committee, is finding people's niche and where they fit. And if you don't know where you fit, just message me on my LMN Pals page and I'll tell you. Because there's nothing I like more than interfering and sticking my nose in places. So
fair enough. So you've just brought out a pagan children's book in the last few months. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The LMN Pals started off as a story that I was telling my autistic daughter when she was about 6 or 7. She wanted to hear a story about Mother Nature. So I created these 4 little elemental imps just off the top of my head. They didn't have names then. They were just whatever spirit they were. and they sort of helped Mother Nature to take care of the forest, take care of her children, humans, and animals and things like that. So she asked me if she could illustrate it, if she could draw the pictures. So she did. And so I sort of, from her pictures, started to create this world. Discussed it with my mother as an idea for like little teddies that we could make for her and stuff like that. And it sort of evolved from there. All of the ideas behind it were very much centered on children's narratives, not what adults want them to learn, not what schools dictate they should be learning, but what children are genuinely interested in, what engages children, what developmentally do they need in their life at the time that they're reading this particular book. When I started studying child and developmental psychology, I tweaked them a little bit to add more of another dimension to it, which is now there's no gender, there's no race, there's no nationality, there's no anything. They are as neutral as it is possible to get, those 5 main characters within this larger sphere of this world that they live in, because it's important for children to feel like they've got their own autonomy over themselves, over their narrative, over their story. And originally I wanted this huge sort of A4 size, fully coloured book, so that children could get involved and really engage with the bright colours in it. But then I thought that actually that's kind of defeating the object. So the pictures have been left completely colourless so that kids can colour them in themselves. Who says that water has to be blue? Who says that fire has to be red? If that child looks at fire and sees something else, if they see passion as a different colour, because essentially that's what the element of fire represents in this anamorphosis sort of narrative, if they see fire as something else, that's what they should do. And this is actually a therapeutic technique that's used on children now, where they're asked, what colour is your anger? What colour is your happiness? And they're asked to colour it and draw it and all these kind of things. So I implemented a lot of the therapeutic stuff into the book, because it's important for kids to feel that control, to know that this isn't something that's being foisted on them. This is a thing for them. From start to finish, the books are all about awakening their passion for nature, their passion for emotion, their communicative skills. So it started off a pagan thing, but in the end, I think it was more than that by the time I was done. So yeah, that's it's the first in, I think I've written over 10 of them now. I'm not sure what order they're going to come out in, if I'm going to get any more of them done or not, but the first one is out, and you can get it on the John Hunt publishing website. It's with Moon Books, and I'll be speaking at MoonCon in June about parenting and paganism and stuff, alongside Fiona Tinker, who's another children's author, and Mav Savage. And Mav and I have got a project in the works that I'm not going to give you too much information about, that is sort of linked to the LMN pals and parenting and stuff like that you should probably look out for, because Mav's fantastic. Plus, I think it's important with this book to show that there is another aspect to paganism that people just don't explore, and that is one of life's big things, is parenting. You know, most people at some point will become parents, or aunts and uncles and godparents and all this kind of thing, and it's a different aspect of you that you should explore spiritually. My spirituality as a parent is completely different to what it was before I was a parent. So books like mine and like Fiona's and like possibly like the one that I might maybe be writing with Mav, and yours from a heathen perspective, all of those books add a different dimension to your spirituality that I definitely think people should explore more. Anything to do with children, even if you're not a parent, it's enlightening to look at things through a child's eyes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm sure there's still more things I could have asked you about from a community's perspective, but the next thing I want to ask is, with all this going on, you know, so many irons in the fire, both in terms of your pagan community work, your studies, your family, and all of that, do you manage to find time for yourself to relax, and how do you do that?
It sounds exhausting down in a sort of, you know, list and stuff, but my work in the community with certain exceptions when it gets a little bit too much and egos get in the way, and which is something that I really struggle with, people's egos and things. Aside from all of that, serving my community is quite relaxing for me. It gives me a sense of purpose. I don't like feeling like I've got no direction. When I feel like I've got no direction and no purpose, I start to slip into, I have clinical depression. It's something I've been quite open about with my work with the disabilities team and things. So when I've got nothing that I can focus on and say, I am of value to these people, I start to struggle with my self-esteem, feelings of self-worth and things, and I start to spiral into this sort of, I'm in bed most of the time, my children are better off without me, and it's just sort of that spiral. So relaxing for me is a service to others, but my neurologist has told me off for that, hence stepping away from the Pagan Federation. And I have started doing things again that I haven't done in a long time. I cross stitch. I was gifted some books by some amazing friends to do some Jane Austen embroidery, and I have been getting involved with learning to embroider without severely hurting my fingers with pins and needles. I tried knitting again. That went disastrously. Never doing that again. I've been writing more books again, which isn't actually as relaxing as it sounds, but I suppose when you've got some sort of words going around your head, it's got to be done. My husband is constantly at me with my physio, because my horrible physiotherapist handed my care over to him and said, yep, you know what you're doing, daily physio, make sure she does it. So walks outside in nature is something that he bullies into me a lot, because he knows that even though I'm resistant at first to leaving the house because I'm a recovering agoraphobic, that really helps. I read a lot. My nose is always stuck in a book. Austen and Diana Gabaldon and Stephen Fry and all these people. I love classical music. I love watching Austen adaptations on the TV while I'm reading a different Austen book on my lap. That one annoys the hell out of my husband, but I quite like it. And I love talking with my friends. I've got a lot of really great friends that are very intelligent and insightful, and they make me think about things in completely different ways and stop my head from coming up with too many reasons to hate myself. It's impossible to hate yourself when you've got so many people constantly telling you that they love you. It's annoying is what it is. It's taking some getting used to after a lifetime of being hated. So that's interesting. And also I recently discovered that far from being a complete freak my entire life, I'm actually autistic. So exploring that aspect of me and understanding that a lot of my triggers are sensory based and things like that, it's been easier to relax since I stopped masking and just sort of started acknowledging that it's okay to say that light's hurting my eyes, it's giving me a panic attack, or something that sounds really silly. So relaxation is not something I knew how to do a year or two ago, but I'm getting used to it, I think. Yeah, maybe.
That's good. Maybe we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. So next question is, you probably sort of covered it a little bit already, but what does being recognised for this award mean to you?
I'm going to tell the people watching this, because you already know, because you were there, that when you called me and told me, I thought you were lying. I thought you'd called me about something completely different. I had no idea. And I tried to give it back, if you recall.
You did.
I'm not very good at accepting recognition for things that I do. I don't like it. It feels tacky. Although my therapist has told me that is my imposter syndrome and my low self-esteem talking. So I have adopted a therapeutic technique to just smile and say, thank you. But that feels ungracious. I'm honoured. I don't feel like I deserve it. I feel like I've started a lot of stuff and foisted it off on friends and other people to finish, but that's on me. So I'm not going to project that onto others and be ungrateful. There's a lot of work left to do, and I'm hoping that at some point I can feel refreshed enough to get back to it and support people in doing that work. I hope that I can prove that this wasn't unearned, that I can keep on doing this in the way that I'm known for, because it would be very, very easy for me to look at an award like this and say, that's the past, I'm not doing that anymore, and sort of beat myself up about it. So I'm going to practice what I have been preaching to the community for about 6 years, and I'm going to take this time to reboot and say it's okay to practice self-care, and instead acknowledge this as my community saying it's time to rest. Rather than a thank you, just an acknowledgement. You've done this. Look at everything you've done. It's okay to have a rest now. I think that's how it's going to sit well with me, to be able to accept it without feeling overwhelming guilt that somebody else didn't get it. I could just lie and say I was very, very honoured and this is amazing, and try and make it sound like it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable, but we all know that I can't do that. It is an honour, and I'm going to try and think of other ways to be worthy of it. Let's move on.
Yeah, okay, let's move on before that makes you any more uncomfortable. We're nearly done.
Okay.
In fact, this is my last question, and you have already touched on it as well, so it shouldn't take long. But what would you say to people that you want to get more involved with the community but don't know where to start?
Everybody, it is a thing that people say that no act is truly selfless. And that's absolutely true. And it shouldn't have to be. Don't look for things that you can do that are completely selfless. It's a trope that you have to serve others without serving yourself. It's crap, and it's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your physical health. So find something that you're passionate about, because that's the place that you're going to make the most difference. And even the smallest thing, my deputy disabilities manager, Petra Lucas, we lost her in, I think it was 2017. I'm very bad with dates. But she said, if we help even one person, then all the work is worth it. So find a place where you can help that one person. Because if you help the one person, no situation is completely unique. There will be others, and it will be a domino effect. So find something you're passionate about and focus on supporting that one person, because that one person makes it enough. But it won't only affect that one person, it will have that ripple effect. Definitely get in touch with the Pagan Federation if you think that you have, if you've got people skills. There's definitely, people don't consider this, but you have to have people skills to do stuff with the PF, because there's a lot of personalities, there's a lot of different people from all over the country, all over the world involved. Definitely get involved there if you can. There is Pagan Aid, the Druid Network. Again, consult the Pagan Heathen Symposium website. There's always something that you can do. And if you can't figure out specific things to do, you don't have the time, if you look on Facebook for the Pagans Care Community Group, in there we're always posting stuff about what charity events people are getting involved with, and the work that people are doing outside the pagan community, and just sharing that, that small thing of retweeting or sharing and things like that is something. It adds up. So there's always something that everybody can do, no matter how small. And I would definitely encourage people to do it. Never think that your contribution is too small. There's no contribution too small. I thought my contribution was too small, and now look, give me a bloody award. So just
for the best of us.
Yeah. But always keep your own passion at centre and your own self-care at the centre, because unless you put your own oxygen mask on first, that is a stereotype and a trope for a reason. You stick with that. Do what makes you passionate, because otherwise you'll have no drive. You'll peter out, and you'll be of no use to anybody. Be selfish in your service. There you go.
Wise words. So thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with me for this interview today. Once again, thank you very much for all the hard work you've done for the community. And congratulations on a thoroughly deserved award. I will not keep you any longer, as I know you have a uni assignment to get back to. So enjoy that.
Thank you.